Okay, so today we're really going to be looking at getting started into the onto KK1, which is the concept of deviance as a relative concept and the relationship between norms or social codes and crime. That's key knowledge 1. Last class was real introduction to what we'll be studying in area of study 1 and 2 of Unit 2. So today we're really getting started on the first key knowledge dot point of everyone. So any notes you take or anything you do related to today's screencast, I would file under key knowledge 1 for area study 1, Unit 2, Sociology. So, what do you think deviance is? The best way, take a couple of minutes, write down some notes of what you think deviance is. Press pause, come back when you're ready. Okay, so you've got a few ideas probably of what you think deviance is. Most of them are going to be negative, about connotations about deviant behaviour. You've heard of maybe sexual deviant or deviant related to delinquency. So most things when you hear the word deviant, you think it's a negative thing. What we're going to learn about in this area of study is that deviance is a really healthy, important part of society, but yes, there is also a negative side of that as well. As far as examples of deviance goes, the best way to see this, you just have this YouTube clip, which I've got here. In Disney movies, it really looks at, if you Google deviance in animated movies, pause my clip for 3 minutes, have a look at that clip, and you'll see some examples of what deviance actually is. Then come back. Okay. So deviance is considered to be behaviour that some people in society find offensive and generates disapproval, punishment, condemnation, and hostility. So the behaviour is really outside the social norms or rules of a group or society, and deciding what that behaviour is considered deviant does involve a moral judgment. The important thing with those particular definition is to note it's outside the social norms of a group. So what is social norm for one or rule for one group or society is obviously going to be different from another. Now that also might come across different over time and geography as well. So remember that the sociologist is not there to make a judgment about the deviant behaviour. They're focused on the behaviour that violates the norms and values of society. So we're really looking at what the norms and values of societies actually are and how those societies enforce those norms and values through sanctions or punishment of those who actually do violate those social norms or codes, values. So it is not, as we know, it's a relative term. Just like good and bad is relative to so many different things, because it's not possible to isolate universally viewed behaviour across all societies that is considered to be deviant. So time. Behaviour is a deviant in one, time is not another. Like homosexuality, it is considered by many societies to be a deviant behaviour. Now it's generally accepted as not deviant behaviour. It might be in the minority, but it's not considered to be deviant. It's not outside the social norm. And again, culturally, from a cultural point of view, spitting in public is a good example. Some parts of the world, it's considered to be normal to spit in public, whereas others it very much isn't. So that's considered deviant by some and not deviant by others. Some examples there. LeBron picking his nose, boy smoking a cigarette, he's about 4 or 5 years old. A girl dressed up as a Barbie doll. 2 women engaged in affection in public. Obviously it's talking about same-sex marriage and homosexuality. These are examples of behaviour that would be considered deviant by some, but maybe not deviant by others. Tattooing, body tattooing, facial piercings, again, does that change depending upon what culture you're in? So geography, and has it changed over time as well, whether that's considered to be deviant behaviour. Shoplifting. Is it something that's considered deviant? How do we enforce? How do we sanction people who shoplift? Is that a formal or is it an informal norm or value that's being violated in that picture? So the relationship between deviancy, norms and values. So deviancy is linked to normative behaviour. That's behaviour that's assumed to be performed by the majority of individuals in society. So that's what's normal, I suppose. So normal is by what the majority does or does not do. So norms themselves, that's the accepted behaviour within society that pervade every aspect of social life. So pervade just basically means involve, get used to. You can't separate it. It's just what we do. Pervade, infiltrate, I suppose. And norms make it easy for people to identify behaviour that is acceptable and behaviour that is unacceptable. And so the values are linked to the norms. Values are subjective evaluations of what's good and right, good, bad, right and wrong. And they give us the moral imperative and a justification to punish transgression. So killing someone is bad. Like the right to life. Killing someone is bad. That's good and bad. It's a value. So therefore the action of murdering, the norm, not to murder someone, we can actually, the values are what give us, we value human life. So therefore someone who takes human life, therefore they are going to be punished as a result. So the values therefore dictate what the norms actually are, and it gives us the moral grounds to actually punish those who transgress our social norms. So what are some in Australia? Jot a few down. I'll wait. Okay. You might have thought of some great examples culturally of what the norms in behaviour. Honesty, fair go, friendly, shake hands, don't kill anyone. These days, don't smoke inside. Lots of different examples I'm sure you could come up with. Folkways. So they're described as informal mores. So they include customs, habits that are learnt through imitation or observation. Shaking hands, covering your mouth when you're coughing. Mores, they're more the rules that guide contact between people in their daily personal interactions. Laws, very much the formal social norms. They're written down, there are legal sanctions, and there's enforcement of it, not by you, me, or anyone else. You, as individuals, there's enforcement of laws through our criminal justice system. So this concept of social control. So most societies have a way to manage people who don't behave normally or who violate these norms. This is called a social control. It's not just about the law and the police force, the government enforcing these things. Everyone promotes predictability, order and stability in society by enforcing these social norms. We do that by me staring at you if you're picking your nose or making a joke about it. If you yawn, don't put your hand over your mouth, you might get an odd glance. Like if you're coughing in public excessively, you will also get the same. So, or you socially isolate someone who farts in class because it's not considered to be a norm to do that. So we all have a role in enforcing social norms. There's through informal enforcement, and then obviously the police force, the government, the authorities have a way of enforcing more formal social norms. So the relationship between deviance and crime. So to commit a crime is an act of formal deviance. So it involves behaviour that violates written laws within society. We refer to this as a crime. It is controlled using sanctions administered by the criminal justice system, such as imprisonment, fines, all that type of thing. What I want you to take away is that, again, it's a relative concept, this deviance. So what it basically means is that across time and place, there are going to be different things what's considered to be deviant. And remember, we as sociologists are not judging the behaviour. We're just merely observing it to see what is actually considered to be a norm and how we actually go about enforcing those particular norms. We'll go on to look at more a case of the relative concept of deviancy in our next class, but just really take away from this quick way of, okay, what deviance actually is, the fact that it is actually a relative concept, and this can change depending on the time and place you're actually in. Otherwise, that's it for today. Any feedback, drop me a line. Catch up.